I made 3D printed classical formal shoes because I think that this is the best looking type of shoe, and this seems like unexplored territory. No one has made shoes like this yet. And looking at the existing 3D printed shoes, nothing comes close. They are all very futuristic, simplistic or just plain weird. You wouldn't want to wear this to any formal occasion, would you? To really commit to this idea, I went to the world's largest trade show for 3D printing called Formnext, only wearing these shoes, and found out firsthand if the shoes or I would endure this long and tiring journey. That's not good. No backup and no solid plan.
So one of two bad things can happen: that you have to go back to the hotel without shoes, or that you have to go back to the hotel with the shoes. So there is no good outcome here.
Why do you put it like that? The catch? I never designed a shoe in my life. I had no idea if the materials I chose were durable at all. The printer of choice is the one that I built from scratch with a grill plate as a base and printed in a way that I tried just once at open source and just partially succeeded. And to top it off, the deadline of this trade show was in less than 3 weeks, so I'd better get started. I'm definitely not a shoe designer, so I have to do things my way. Scanning an existing shoe that I really like with the scanner that was sent to me by Matter and Form. I made several 3D scans at different angles and used the calibration card to make sure that the 3D scan was at the right size. Because the shoes are mirrored, I just scanned one shoe that I imported into Fusion as a reference. I took some reference measurements to see if it all went well, and everything was looking good. I gulped down some energy drink to further destroy my night's sleep and started with this challenging design. My plan is to start designing my way around this 3D scan using parametric design. This is the type of design that I'm comfortable with and uses defined sketches, dimensions and whatnot, which is not ideal for designing something like this. I plowed my way through this difficult shape of the outer sole and tried to hold on to the few design elements like straight lines, tangent curves and circles that I could discover. Yesterday I continued until quite late, and it's a day later now. This is pretty challenging to design. I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out, but this thing is held together by splines, fillets, deleted faces and some good faith. And right now this is where I'm at. The front part, I want to make the nose a bit rounder. Yeah, so for today I'm going to design the rest of the shoe. And what I hope, and that would be nice, if I can just say shell, make it 2 millimeters, and then we have a shell. So I hope that this will work for the whole shoe. Right now it looks like a gentleman pair of slippers. With that outer sole that somehow ended up pretty neatly, I had some sort of base that I could use to design the rest of the shoe. I let go of trying to dimension everything and was just applying all kinds of design functions like sweeps and lofts. Some more cut extrusions here and there combined with more deleted faces in the hope that something nice would come out of it. For some reason, the lens I typically use got busted, and the only lens I have now is this anamorphic lens with this wide aspect ratio. So, grab yourself some popcorn and enjoy the rest of this story. Okay, I tried. I really tried. Stubborn as I am, I really wanted to design these shoes using parametric design that I'm used to, also considering the short time frame. And I spent several days. And this is the result. If you make a video about good looking shoes, then the shoes must look good. During the weekend, I couldn't let this go. And I didn't film this, I can reenact, but just accept that during the weekend, I taught myself a new skill. I've learned a new skill. I think this is pretty good for a first attempt at creating a surface design, right? I did have a, this 3D scan. So without a scan, I would never be able to make it as good as it is now. I can just drag this around a bit until everything fits perfectly. So this is my shoe right now. I think a pretty clean design. And I did add some real parametric design elements here with these holes. And they do have like dimensions, like my trusty old dimensions. Maybe you're wondering why I don't just download a design of a shoe. I found some good designs already. With this, I fit these shoes. So I think my logic is that if I just design it in the same shape as this, then I should also fit that. Also with this, I'm able to do some modifications, some tweaks if it happens to be not fitting perfectly, or I just want to modify some things. I can optimize this further for the 3D printing process if I need to. The thing I have to do now is I still have these openings here. This is a different flap than this one, which was pretty tricky. And I had to make a little cavity here, otherwise it would intersect with itself, rendering it impossible to turn it into a solid body like this. So now I'm going to tweak it and trying to close it a bit here by filling it up with some regular old extrusions and deleting the faces. I honestly thought that I was there and was able to extrude my way out of this. The difficulty of a shoe like this is that it's usually made out of separate flat parts that are knitted together. This design is turning out to be some sort of hybrid that is going to be 3D printed in the shape already, so the flaps must meet and the holes be closed. I shifted my mindset and came up with this idea of making separate sculpted parts that literally fill the gaps. This made it possible to use the combine function and end up with one single solid body. Please let me know in the comments if you didn't understand a damn thing about this. This might be interesting to share in a separate article on my website. I think the design is finally finished. I've never put so much hours in one single part as this part. I added some textures to it, so we get a bit of a feel of what it might look like. Of course, we will not see the grain, but I want to 3D print this top part first on the experimental 3D printer to see if it actually works. So I'm calling it a day, and tomorrow we'll start printing. I tilted one gantry of my grill plate printer to a 45-degree angle because I think that this orientation is very suitable for printing shoes. However, the maximum height seemed to be very limited. My idea was to just place the toolboard below the extruder, so the extruder will be placed higher up. The motor cable was a bit too short now, so I had to extend this. It looked sort of better. After inspecting the maximum height of the shoe in the slicer, I measured the maximum height, which was a bit disappointing. Even the bottom of the carriage was too low, so this would never have worked in the first place. So I had to print the shoe on the Prusa XL. Okay, a bit of a shame that we aren't able to print the shoes on the experimental printer. Printer is simply not big enough. And I'm not going to solve that within the short time frame that we have. So I'm printing that on the Prusa XL. Maybe that's for the better. This doesn't mean that we aren't going to use that printer for that video. We are going to use it for what I think is the most interesting aspect of using that printer for this project. And that's for printing the insoles out of VarioShore, where we can adjust the hardness lengthwise. But we will do that later. First, I'm going to add some profile to the outer sole. I have a fun idea for that. The XL is printing right now. Modify the outer sole and then see if everything fits. Then print the outer. The next morning I checked up on the print that was printed out of PLA to check if everything worked out well or if I had to modify something. There were some very thin walls in the bottom of the shoe, so this must be modified. I tried putting it on, but the PLA is just too stiff. Therefore, I decided to go directly with the flexible wood, which I had in mind for this project all along. This came in loose bundles, and trying to get this on a spool was very fun. Somehow, after some mindless persistence, I got the first bundle on the spool, which was enough for the first tests. I modified the very thin walls on the bottom of the top shoe, but before printing it out of the flexible wood, I had to find out the best settings. The temperature tower I made showed that I've got to print the shoe at a single temperature. I made a more representative test piece with ABS supports and hoped that this would work, but this needed some further optimization. During the night, the outersole was printed, also out of PLA, to see if we can expect some problems here. Everything seems to align well, so that's nice. I quickly designed a holder on which I can place one of those loose bundles to make my life a bit easier. This needed a little modification to be reliable though. So I focused on the one thing that seemed to work, the outersole. This will be printed out of PETG with rubber called At Night and placed this in a filament dryer to let it dry for a while. I printed the next test piece on the Bambolab X1C because I equipped this printer with a 0.6mm nozzle in the hope that it would be stronger. Well, we're heading in the right direction here. There is one big uncertainty that I wanted to address, the inner soles. I bought a bunch of flower foam and admired this rare sight of it being undamaged. I slowly lowered myself on top of it and I had no idea what to expect. My body weight alone didn't seem to be enough. The blocks were not packed that tight and I wasn't very happy with the imprints. So I removed the packaging, which will also cause issues anyway during scanning. I had the idea of taping the 3 individual blocks together, and I can tell you, trying to tape fluorofoam together is challenging. I tried again and eventually gave up on this idea. Then, there at the spot, there was lying something in plain sight that could be the solution here. I know, this looks pretty stupid, but I honestly felt kind of smart. The other side looked great for another attempt, and once again my shirt shows my philosophy. I did the same with the other blocks and went for my second attempt at making imprints. I danced around a bit and this time it was looking really good. The PETG with rubber has dried for long enough and I started the print of the outer sole. I'm using recycled PETG as the infill and support material, which is where the tool change system comes in handy. I also made another flexible wood sample, but it still wasn't there yet. The next morning the outer sole was starting to look really good. I tried another sample and still didn't crack the coat, but I'm not giving up on this. I made bigger jars for the loose filament holder and this seemed to be working fine. Respooling it like this was a day and night difference as compared to my previous attempt. Meanwhile, the Bambolab was printing another sample and this time I used the brick layer technique, which was my last attempt. Long story, but this is where the perimeters are interlocking, resulting in increased strength. Alright, this worked, but we ain't there yet. The shoes require more material than what's on one of these bundles, so I had to join the bundles. A while back the guys from Slunas reached out to me with this Slunas FF1R filament joiner. This device is able to automatically join all kinds of filament types, including this flexible wood filament. This is the perfect use case for this project, but this also can be used to join scrap pieces of filament to reduce waste. It automatically spools and eventually I ended up with enough filament on one spool to start printing the shoe. I was hoping that the material would be stronger when it's printed as a shoe, and with the limited time we have, I decided to go for it. Okay, the outer sole with the rubber PETG/recycled PETG was at least one thing that was going alright. I removed the support structure from it and was left with this really great looking part. It did feel kind of stiff, but maybe good enough for... Okay, I decided on a single thing here that seems to be going well. My footprints that I still needed to scan. During the night, the second attempt at the outer sole was being printed where I increased the amount of perimeters to make it a lot stronger. Also the top shoe on the Bambolab with that flexible wood was looking really good. Yesterday I started scanning my footprints And that went quite well. My very first attempt already had a, well, basically perfect result. So I think that using this flower foam is a good way of doing this. Another advantage of this is that I basically already have the shape that I want to use inside of the shoe. I started modeling just like I did with the shoe, but I very quickly found out that this is taking a lot of time, which we don't have. So I found a way, well, I found two ways of turning the 3D scan into a solid, which we can work with. One way is free and the other one is paid. The paid way has a 14-day trial, but we don't even have that much time, so who's laughing now? The free way of doing it is pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it. You have to clean up the scan first, load it into Fusion. Then you reduce the number of faces of the mesh, otherwise this is going to take a long time. Then you can convert the mesh and select faceted, which is a free way of converting it. And then it will be converted to a surface. Then you can draw a rectangle which you extrude into a block which must intersect this plane. And then you can use this plane to split the body and you are left with a solid body of the footprint. Basically two bodies, one with a positive and one with a negative. Hide one of them and you have something you can work with. The paid way is not easier, but you have a lot more flexibility, because with this it will turn it into a form and you can manipulate that form to roughen out the edges, which in my case was a kind of relevant because of the creases we have in the scan. And this can be loaded into the design of the shoe, so we can make our fitting insole. Yeah, that's the whole reason why we're doing this, is to make the perfect fitting insole. Maybe I should have explained that earlier. The next day the new outersole was finished together with the wooden top. After removing the support, I was left with these two parts that are looking really good together. I further cleaned up the top shoe and tried putting it on, which was absolutely not possible. I needed to do some modifications here to make that happen. This is why I wanted to design them myself. Now I can modify it in such a way that I will be able to put them on. I pulled the flaps outwards with the idea that this can be pulled back when tying the laces. I sliced the new shoe design in Simplify 3D and used that brick layer technique again. I joined another bundle to the existing spool and started the new print. While that was running, I decided to print the other outer sole on a Prusa so I can get that over with. Okay, there is a lot going on and I think that it's a good idea to catch some breath and let all of this sink in. I used to do this by scrolling mindlessly within my bubble of comfort, but this pushed me into a direction where I don't necessarily want to be. I recently discovered Ground News, which is founded by a former NASA engineer that combats this problem and is sponsoring this video. Ground News is an app and website that gathers related articles from across the world in one place. Take for example this article about a man who got caught on Google Street View, loading a body into the trunk of a car. I saw this on Reddit earlier and the first comment below it was "Source?" and no reply. Well, we don't have that problem here, do we? 278 news sources accompanied with a political bias of each source and their factuality. Just comparing some of the headlines already gives a lot of insight, from Google Maps solving a murder in Spain to, oh, it's a woman and her husband in Soria. And wait, there are more pictures of the body being transported in a wheelbarrow. Fascinating. You can also find articles within your specific interest, like 3D printing. Apparently there is a major step towards 3D printed active electronics. That's cool. Ground News makes it convenient to access additional context, which makes the story richer and less biased. Their mission aligns with what I think is important, and therefore I decided to work with them as a sponsor. Check them out at ground.news/proper and use my link to save 40% on the same Vantage plan I use for unlimited access to all of their features. Okay. Let's go back to printing those shoes. First finish my coffee, then print the shoes. Things were looking good on both machines, so I was finally ready to start printing the insoles on that grill plate printer. You know, that printer that has never printed a single successful print in this orientation. There is still more than a week left, so no rush. At least I was smart enough to modify the homing sequence so the nozzle doesn't crash in front of the bed. I sliced the file in ID Maker in the belt printer mode and modified the G-code file by swapping the Z and Y movements manually. Good thing I got some experience at open source earlier this year.
Ik denk dat hij een spiegelbeeld print.
The material of choice is the VarioSure from Color Fab that foams up during printing according to the print temperature. My plan was to modify the hardness lengthwise, but decided for once in this video to just make it somewhat easy for myself and printed everything at the same temperature. I started to print and it seemed to just work. Everything was looking incredibly smoothly. Maybe you noticed that we are in the normal aspect ratio now. I got a replacement lens which makes my job a bit easier. Let me know in the comments what you think of the anamorphic look. Shall I make a whole video with it? This was going so well that I don't really understand why it failed at open source. Oh well, you don't hear me complaining. 1 week left. Let's check on the print that was printed overnight. Okay, against all odds, this is the part that didn't cause a single issue. Maybe this printer ran out of issues and everything from now on will be smooth sailing. This felt like a legit insole. The bottom was a bit weird though, but it should still fit. Also, there were some small bits left, but this was easy to remove. Let's check how the other printers are doing. I tried something new. My plan B for the outer sole. This is a combination of soft TPU on the outside and ABS influence support. It seemed like the part came loose, which caused a crash. That then again caused a problem with placing the tool back. I don't blame the XL here, and I think I got a bit too experimental. This seemed to be a bad idea, so let's scrap that. The left version of the shoe stop seemed to be going along nicely, and I decided to go with plan C for the outer soles, printing them out of a single flexible, yet not too flexible material. The Prusa XL was printing while I was sanding down the wooden top, and this way I could check if it went well, which it didn't. Too much under extrusion in my opinion, and I started this print on the Sovel SV08. This was looking good, so I could put my attention back on that piece of flexible wood. The inner sole was a perfect fit and felt exactly like standing on that foam again. This was pretty cool to be honest. I placed the inner sole in the wooden top, and also this was a perfect fit. Okay, let's see if I can put it on. All that effort of combining the loose spools led up to this point where it just snapped in half. The left shoe turned out well, but my last bit of confidence in this material had vanished, and I decided to go with my backup plan of printing it out of the regular Ninja Flex TPU, which is pretty soft. I started to print on the Bambu Lab, checked if that Sovel was still doing alright, and it was, and was watching my favorite show during a nice dinner. It initially looked good, but eventually the Bambu Lab failed printing with this TPU. I started to print on the Prusa MK4 just before I was about to call it a day, and also this eventually failed. Good choice. The next morning, the Sovel SV08 also failed with printing this material. Things weren't looking good. Which of all printers I have is capable of printing with flexible material? The only possibility I had, considering the short time frame, is this old Creality Sermoon D1, which I modified a while back by replacing the whole gantry and adding a micro Swiss extruder. This is literally my only chance left, considering that the wooden shoe will probably not make it. What I didn't understand is that I successfully printed the flexible filament on the Prusa XL before, so I watched back my old YouTube video to see what was different. I figured out that I used a different tool, so I changed that and restarted the print of the outer soles on it. I grabbed one of those CHT nozzles to increase the chances of success on the Sermoon printer, placed the spool with Ninja Flex directly on top of it and started the print of the top shoe. Well, it was placing first layer. Also the XL was looking good now. I also started a new print of the other insole on the grill plate printer. It was getting late, but I had received a message that the colored TPU I bought was delivered at home, and I made a last minute decision to stop the outer sole that was printing on the Prusa XL. I figured that for this plan C it would look cool if I make the shoes with a green outer sole and a black top. So I drove back home late in the evening to get that filament, also so I could get a quick shower. and drove back to the studio. If everything goes well from now on, I should have just enough time to also print blue outer soles combined with a brown top, which I reckon would look pretty classy. I placed the green filament on the Prusa XL and started to print. The Ninja Flex shoe top on the Surmoon is also looking really good. The next morning the other insole was printed as well, without any issues as it seems. The thing that really blew my mind is that this damn modified Surmoon D1 is the printer capable of printing the whole shoe top out of Ninja Flex. An 18+ hour print, and the quality is much better than I expected, especially so high up. Bad adhesion is never a problem with TPU. Eventually I ripped it off the build plate and started the other print of the left shoe top. I also found out that the two inner soles were completely different in thickness, so I had to redesign this as well. Fortunately the XL was doing alright with those green outer soles. I stepped on the floral foam block again to make my imprint deeper, made a new 3D scan that I cleaned up and uploaded to Fusion to turn into a fitting insole. After this was done, I sliced the file again and started to print on my grill plate printer. Removing support from a TPU print is a nightmare, but this was so flexible that I could put it inside out, which made it a lot easier. Still, this was pretty tough. For some reason, the XL decided to stop extruding. Fuck. I bought one spool of this green TPU and it didn't have enough for another attempt. Well, the only thing that does work is my trusty old Surmoon D1, which managed to print another shoe top. I was a bit disappointed, and in hindsight I probably should have reduced the tension on the extruder. 4 days left and I'm now finally able to see if I fit the shoe. The TPU makes it harder to put it on, but it seems like I'm fitting it. Well, it would have looked pretty cool with that green. Another insole had finished, but I still wasn't happy with the fit, so I made some more modifications so there would be a bit more room in the shoe. I printed the top out of leather brown TPU because I was curious how that could have been. I was waiting for the green TPU to arrive that I ordered again earlier anyway. I had one shot at realizing the black and green shoes if I started the print of the green outer soles today and this brave modified Surmoon would not fail. If it fails, I would run out of all options. I started the morning by cleaning up the brown top that I wanted to pair with the blue outer sole. This was obviously not going to happen, but there was nothing else I could do besides waiting for the green outer soles to finish. Well, there was one thing. I could glue the outer sole of the PTG with rubber to the flexible wooden top. I wouldn't be able to walk on these, and I see this as the prototyping shoe. The aesthetic that I could hopefully one day turn into a real walkable shoe. It already cracked with a little force, so no way I'm putting these on. Tomorrow I'm going to Formnext. Hopefully with some 3D printed shoes. All depends on if that old Creality printer down in the basement managed to print those outer soles. I didn't expect that this would have been the toughest thing here. I expected that this printer would give me the most trouble. And for some reason, no trouble at all. Like, yeah, except for that it's not high enough to print those shoes. But for printing the inner soles, it was literally start the print and I could walk away. No failures. So that was a surprise. So let's go down to the basement and find out if this project is a total failure or a partial success. This old Creality printer just saved the whole video. 40-hour print on a modified Surmoon D1. Yeah, there was a lot of moisture in the filament, so therefore it is a bit rough. But that's intentional, so you have better grip. I removed the support from it and also made this sample of two TPU parts glued together. TPU is not easy to glue, and the only solution I could get my hands on was this PVC glue, but a nasty kind that contains THF. This is terrible to work with, and now you see me literally fucking up the shoes on the last possible moment. I didn't really think this through, and it's close to impossible to clamp it down. Because it was dissolving the TPU, it started deforming a bit, which made matters worse. I ripped it off again, so let's consider this our base coat, and I realized at the last possible moment that I had the shoe spanners here from my original shoes that would be pretty handy now. Eventually I realized that it was much easier to use zip ties, and I tied the whole thing together. To be absolutely sure that every cavity was filled with glue, I used a syringe to inject it. This was a horrible experience, never to be done again. Okay, I'm on my way to Frankfurt and the weather conditions are pretty bad. So that's a perfect use case for testing the shoes, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm not going to wear them today though, because they are still all tied up and I want to have the glue set for another day, and I also have to remove some of the glue stains. So yeah, it's all a pretty tight schedule. Deutsche Autobahn, full gas, pop pop. This was literally the first time putting them on, and I had no idea if the glue would hold up. Chances are that the outer soles will just come loose in front of all the people I'm going to meet at the event, and that I have to find my way back somehow. Barefoot. I'm not bringing spare shoes. You gotta commit. Ivan Miranda joined me on this journey and helped me document it. Looks like they're holding up. I wanted to fix the this layer issue here. I have a hole. There are very small irregularities that I'm feeling right now. So right now it's manageable, but I'm wondering how that will be in the long term. And my feet are going to smell like a chemical waste factory because of the glue. We had to go to the store first because he forgot his phone charger. I saw this as a great opportunity to see if I would have any grip with the TPU. They are grippy. Get rid of the glue stains.
I think he's gonna suffer a lot. Those don't look comfortable.
Honest opinion so far, they're holding up pretty well, but and they are grippy. They are kind of comfortable. The overall fit is a bit tight, and TPU doesn't breathe that well, so there are some sharp edges in here that I'm afraid will be painful later on. Let's see how long it will take before I cannot take it anymore.
Keep. That thing that you see is John recording a selfie part of the video, but in reality he's sitting down. He's taking advantage of the opportunity of sitting down and rest from his shoes. That's what he's doing.
Funny thing is that you're probably hearing him, but I'm not.
The entrance is exactly in the complete opposite side of where we are.
Nice. And of course we were on the wrong side. Fortunately I have the world's most comfortable shoes, so that's not going to be a problem.
Let's walk, let's walk.
Yes, yeah. I think we have to go that direction, all the way around. Oh, that's... Oh, fuck me. Yeah, okay, that's a long walk. It's a good test. I see this as a good test for the shoes.
We came to play, John. We came to play.
Yeah.
So your fear is shifting from the well-being of the shoes towards your own well-being, right?
Yeah, so that's how it should be, I think.
So, do you have spare shoes in the backpack?
No, I've only brought the one wooden shoe because I want to show that to some people.
So one of two bad things can happen: that you have to go back to the hotel without shoes, or that you have to go back to the hotel with the shoes. So there is no good outcome here.
Why do you put it like that? I'm wondering if a shoe store is more nearby than the hotel.
We could get some other 3D printed shoes in there. People steal some. There are people show me 3D printed shoes.
Oh, that's a good one. Just trying them on, and if they fit, then just run away.
Why are you sitting down?
Nothing, just that's not good.
Are they warm?
Yes, because they don't breathe at all. So yes, they are really warm. I'm taking every opportunity where I don't have to walk. I'm not going to make it the whole day, I'm sure.
So funny.
You gotta challenge yourself. Okay, let's see the people's reactions.
Whoa! What's this?
This is just for ventilation.
A little ventilation there.
It's a TPU, so my feet get a bit sweaty in there.
It's like little clown shoes.
Clown shoes, fuck you.
It's impressive.
Thanks.
It's impressive.
What? Are they all TPU?
Yes.
They look amazing.
Hey,
3D
Carlos.
printed shoes that look like shoes.
Yeah. And they're great, man.
Crazy. You know what vibe this gives me? This gives me old classic 80s car with an electric motor and electric battery that does 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds.
That's a good.
I love it.
Thanks, man.
Is it comfortable?
Absolutely not. No, they are killing me.
Version 2, what are your main priorities?
Version 2, I want to print them all in one on the Prusa XL.
Oh yeah, so it's not glued, okay.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You made them.
Yeah.
I'm jealous now. To be honest, at first look, they just look like, well, fancy shoes.
Thanks.
Oh my god. How they are printed.
I was looking for your shoes.
Oh,
Have you done that?
Yeah, pick up. Of course.
I was wow.
No, they are not comfortable at all.
Yeah, that's class. Can I take a picture of them?
Oh, sure. Oh, yes, thank
That will
you.
literally save your life. I mean, they're fun.
If it wasn't for Georgia from E3D, I would have walked back to the hotel and ended this video. It was just too painful. Oh, this is so much better.
They build their own slicer and they call it surface slicing.
For the foaming stuff.
So they can do really like a fabric-like texture on here. It's really nice.
6 hours in and John's still going. John, those look way more comfy than yours.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can steal some. There are people.
Also, no one has made shoes like this yet.
You have spare ones with you?
No.
Nice, that's dedication.
These are some interesting lattice structures.
Do they look more comfortable than yours?
Yes, they do. I walked around to see how other 3D printed shoes were designed, so I could get some inspiration. Nothing comes close to this idea of classy 3D printed shoes. Imagine these shoes being printed out of this jeans filament. That would be pretty awesome, right? I found shoes that look less comfortable than mine.
Okay, so we will see a video about that soon?
Yes.
Or?
Yes, maybe you're in it.
Oh my god, hi!
Oh, wow!
These, thanks. The glue is already a bit loosening now. So I'm wondering, well, we are doing a battle, me versus the shoes. My plan was to go back to the hotel before going to dinner, but guess what? That didn't happen.
Let me give you time. It's 8 hours and 43 minutes in. How are you feeling, John?
Sort of good.
He's lying. It's a very bad liar. I think he's in pain.
The whole day with those shoes?
So the only shoes I have.
That's so brave.
But now we have to walk a lot more. We had to walk pretty far to get to an Uber, which took us to the place. And I found my new cameraman.
Hello, my friend.
So now you're the camera guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Okay, I made it back to the hotel eventually. This was a tough challenge, but I believe that this is going to be a thing. Give me some more time redesigning them and printing them in one go, and we will finally have great looking 3D printed shoes.